thankful to be here. Here's how my story goes. I tell it all over the United States. I travel everywhere. And it never gets any easier. My story starts with this big, strong, good-looking football player. His name is Austin. Now, Austin is what some of you would call a tryhard, okay? An overachiever. He was the president of his freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class at Goshen High School, okay? He ran track and played football all 4 years he was there. In fact, he was voted the scholar athlete in one or both of those sports all 4 years of high school. He graduated at the top of his class with a grade point average above a perfect 4.0 because he took college courses his senior year. So he took weighted honors. He worked very hard. He was very driven. On the track field and especially in football. He went on to receive $26,000 in renewable academic scholarships, which allowed him to go on and play football at the college of his choice. Now, Austin could have gone to any college, but he chose a really rare, unique school. There's only 3 of these schools left in the entire country, and Austin chose one of them. Does anybody want to guess what made his college different? No girls allowed. There's only 3 all-male colleges left in the United States. And you might look at him and think, wow, why would a good-looking kid like that go to school where there's no girls? That's a good question. It's a good question. Well, I'll tell you why. Austin was very driven. Remember I said he was a tryhard. He wanted to be a leader. He felt like he was actually called to make a difference in this world. So he wanted to put himself in the toughest college that built leaders, and Wabash was known for that. Very hard school to get into. If you could get in there and graduate, you were pretty much guaranteed a good job for life. Okay? So, Austin went to Weirich College where he played football, and when he arrived on campus, he continued to keep pushing himself harder and harder and harder. He studied harder, he signed up for things, he wanted to be trained to be a leader in this world. One of the things that he signed up for was something called the War Council. Now, the War Council stands for Wabash Acts Responsibly. This group is a group that actually helps students when they're struggling with all kinds of things. You know, drugs and alcohol on campus, not making good decisions, mental health, just stressed out, needing to talk to someone. The War Council worked with students to help them. Austin was actually scheduled to lead a meeting for this group on the topic of mental health on the morning of Monday, September the 12th of 2016. But my son Austin never, ever showed up for that meeting. He never showed up because of the early morning hours of Saturday, September the 10th, which coincidentally happens to be World Suicide Prevention and Awareness Day, 2016. He made a decision that would change the course of his life and my life. And it's why I speak to thousands and thousands of young people like you all over the nation. It's why I'm here in your classroom today in the auditorium. You see, it all started about 2:30 in the morning with someone ringing our doorbell like crazy, banging on my front door. That's a sound that no parent ever wants to hear, especially at 2:30 in the morning. Now, my husband, Austin's dad, Keith, can sleep through almost anything, but not me. I'm a very, very light sleeper, so everything wakes me up. When I heard someone ringing my doorbell like my house was on fire, I jumped out of bed and I woke up my husband and I said, "Someone's at our front door." Before he could even get out of bed, I was going bolting down the front stairs, looking through both the windows on the side of my door, yelling through the door, "Who is it?" In that moment, I could see the police car parked in front of our house, and they said through the door, "Goshen Police." I thought to myself, why on earth would the police be on our front porch at 2:30 in the morning? They must have the wrong house. When I opened up the door, I'm going, no, they have the wrong house, and they're going to tell me they're sorry. They woke me up. Well, I opened the front door. That's not what they said. They said, "Do you have a son named Austin Weirich who attends Wabash College?" I said, yes I do. Then they handed me a card. And they said the words that absolutely no parent ever wants to hear. Well, I grabbed that card out of their hand as fast as I could, and I went back into my house to find my cell phone. By that time, Austin's dad and I were standing in the kitchen when we called that number. The dean of the college answered and told us that there had been an accident that evening. Austin was with his girlfriend. There had been an argument. And shot us. They told us that there was a helicopter trying to land, but because of the storm, they were unable to. So they were taking him by ambulance 45 minutes away to Indianapolis. They told us we needed to get there as quickly as possible. Now, we knew we were about to face the hardest night of our lives, but we also knew we had to be strong for our daughter. You see, Austin had a 16-year-old sister who was upstairs listening to all of this on our front porch. So we went up to tell her that her brother had been in an accident. We needed to drive to Indianapolis. We asked her to pray for Austin and told her we'd update her when we had more news. Now, I have driven through some really, really bad thunderstorms in my lifetime. But I've never, ever driven through rain, lightning, thunder, like we drove through that night. We had a 3-hour drive ahead of us. We were only about a half hour down the road when my cell phone rang. It was an emergency from the doctor. He asked us if we were on our way. We told him that we were. And then he asked if we could pull over to the side of the road where he could talk to us. He said he was sorry to tell us that the ambulance had just arrived with our son Austin. And there was no pulse. I said, what do you mean? It's like my head and my heart couldn't figure out the words he was saying. He said, I'm sorry to tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Weirich, your son did not survive the accident. We still need you to come. But please be careful driving through the storm. In that moment, Austin's dad, who was about the most soft-spoken man I've ever known in my life, hit his fist on the steering wheel and just cried out, why? Why, oh why, God? Why? We both just sat in silence on the side of the road, listening to the rain hitting our windshield. Then we drove on in silence, except for the rain which never let up. When we pulled into the hospital parking lot, my husband looked over at me and he said, you know what? It's like the whole world is crying with us tonight. And I believe that it was. As he dropped me off at the front door, while he went in to park the car, I ran in as fast as I could and I told him who I was, and in that moment, I saw this man walking toward me, a hospital jacket on. He said, Mrs. Weirich, my name is Paul, and I am the chaplain here at St. Vincent's. By that time, my husband was walking in the door, and Chaplain Paul took us to the lounge in the back where we could sit down. If I live to be 99 years old, I will never, ever forget that man's face, or his gentle voice, and especially what he did for us in the middle of that night. Because of a suicide in our state, someone who loves you has to identify the body. Did you know that? Have you ever thought about what that would feel like to ask somebody to do that on your behalf? Because that's the reality of suicide. It's not like those shows you watch on Netflix. That's really what it's like. Somehow or other, in the depths of our grief, I seem to remember that my son had a very unique injury on his left ring finger. I started to describe it to the nurse and the doctor. In that moment, Chaplain Paul spoke up, and he said, Mr. and Mrs. Weirich, I'll go back for you on your behalf and identify your son's body. What an incredible act of kindness from a random stranger that could have only been given to us by someone who walked in our shoes. Before he went back to identify Austin, he asked me to pray over us. He asked God to give us comfort in the way that he had been comforted just 3 years earlier when he lost his only 17-year-old son. So getting back to why I've come here today, Why go through all these details of that night that I would much, much rather forget? It's because I don't want our story to become your story. I don't want anyone who loves you to have to go through what we have. And so if I have to go through this painful story over and over and over to save one life in this high school, I'll do it. I'll do it. So getting back to why I'm here. Well, I wish I could tell you that was the last tragedy that the college would ever have on a football team. Small college, all-male college. Remember I said Austin took his life on World Suicide Prevention Awareness Day 2016? Well, World Suicide Prevention Awareness Day 2018, 2 years later to the exact day, September the 10th, we received a text message from one of Austin's former roommates. He said, Mr. and Mrs. Weirich, I don't know if you heard, but Evan Hansen, the co-captain of the Wabash football team, took his life today. And I'm sorry to have to tell you this, especially today, but I just didn't want you to hear about it on the news. So now our grief, which we were still trying to figure out how to get through, was shared with the Hansen family in Carmel, Indiana. Let me tell you a little bit about Evan Hansen. Evan Hansen was 21 years old and about to graduate with a double major in Spanish and biology. He had just stood on the football field 2 days earlier on Senior Saturday. He was recognized as a co-captain of the Wabash football team. He went to football practice on Sunday, talked to all his coaches and his friends. On Monday morning, Evan walked into the woods, and in a split second, he lost hope, and he lost his life. The following week, my husband and I were contacted by the Indianapolis Star newspaper to see if we'd like to share our story with Evan's parents to try to help other people and other families. We agreed. By Saturday of that week, our story made national news in USA Today as a human interest sports story, because both young men played on the same team, knew each other at a small, all-male private college, and both died by suicide on World Suicide Prevention Awareness Day, exactly 2 years apart. I couldn't make up that story if I tried, and nor would I want to. It's that story that's led me all over the country to share it over and over and over. So you're probably still wondering, well, this is health education. What does this have to do with me, my life? Why in the world would you come here to relive all those details to me? I'm about to tell you why. There's my why. There's my why. I don't want you to become Evan and Austin. I don't want you to make that decision. And I'm going to teach you, because it's health education, we're going to talk about your brain. We're going to talk about how their brains failed them, and why your brain can easily fail you, and how you can help yourself in those moments so you can hold on to hope and have a future and have a life and stick around to make this world a better place. If you haven't been paying attention, it's a really good time to sit up and listen right now. So I'm going to give you some life-saving information that I've shared all over the United States. Here we go. Health education class. Let's start learning about the brain. How Austin's failed it, how Evan's failed it, and what happens in your brain. You have something, that yellow part there, that gold part. That yellow part, that gold part. It's called the amygdala. Has anybody ever heard of their amygdala? Okay, has anybody ever heard of fight or flight? Fight or flight response. Okay, there you go. Guess where the fight or flight response comes out of? Comes out of our amygdala. Our amygdala is the back of our brain. It's the very first part of our brain that ever grows and develops. Now, it's important because it keeps us safe, right? It's our fight or flight response. Keeps us safe from danger. But what happens when the amygdala lies to us and tricks us, like it did my son that night. I'm going to talk more about what happened that night. I'll explain to you. He had an amygdala hijack that night. So the amygdala got stuck. Our amygdala houses all of our emotions, okay? All of them. So our amygdala, it plays a key role in processing these emotions. It helps us know how to respond. This is more important. It helps us know how to not respond. Okay? Everybody make sure you put your phones away now. I want you to pay attention. It regulates our emotions. Things like fear and aggression. Aggression, anger. Okay? You with me? So you're walking down the street, maybe late at night, it's getting kind of dark out, and you feel like there's somebody behind you. So you start walking faster, 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 faster. And then your palms get kind of sweaty, your heart starts racing. That's your fight or flight, right? That's your fight or flight response. It's good. Keeps you safe, right? What happens when you turn around and there's nobody back there? But your heart's still racing. Your palms are still sweaty. You're still out of breath. Okay? Your amygdala got hijacked. It got stuck in fear. The problem with the amygdala is sometimes, okay, the next slide please. Sometimes the amygdala, it handles all these emotions. So fear, anger, happiness, sadness, anxiety, worry, and frustration. Handles all of them, but sometimes it's not accurate. Sometimes it's not real. It's making us feel one of those emotions that we don't really need to feel to be safe. We're stuck. We're stuck in those emotions. Okay, so it's our fight or flight response. So too much stress. An argument with a girlfriend. Too much stress. A breakup with a boyfriend. Too much stress. A fight with your parents. Too much stress. Hijacks that reasoning. So what you do, based on what you feel, doesn't match the reality. My son took his life over a girl he knew less than 6 months. I think his life was worth more than that. I think all of your lives are worth more than that. His amygdala got stuck in anger and sadness. And he thought out of the back of his brain instead of the front, which we're going to talk about the front. We're going to talk about why it's so hard for you guys sometimes to make the right decision. So the amygdala overcomes reasoning and logic. It overcame reasoning and logic with Evan that morning in the woods. It overcame reasoning and logic. Mine should say, walk away. He's a good-looking kid. He could have had any girl. Walk away. But he got stuck in that amygdala. It hijacked his reasoning. Okay, so let's go forward. What is so important? If you take 2 fingers and go like this across your forehead, right behind there is this green part called your prefrontal cortex. And guess what? Does anybody want to give me a guess how old you have to be before that part of your brain is fully developed and functioning, like to do all the important things in life we need to do when we grow up? How old do we need to be? Yes? 18? Nope. Yes? Good guess. 27. They used to say 25. Researchers have pushed it back 2 years. Now, you saw my son. He was 6'4", 240 pounds, defensive end football player. He was built like a man, looked like a man, with the brain of a boy. He had 7 more years. Guess what the prefrontal cortex does? Anger management. Do you think that might have come in handy that night to my son? Impulse control. Reasoning, decision making, logic. How much do you think he could have used those skills that night when push came to shove? His brain failed him. That's what happens in suicide. Let me tell you about suicide. because I know all about it. I work with it every day, 24/7, all over the nation. Nobody, no one, no adult, no teenager, no older person ever wants to die by suicide or end their life. They don't. They want to end their pain. They want to end their suffering. They want to stop that pain in the moment. So they make a permanent decision about a temporary problem when 10 minutes later, 5 minutes later, tomorrow morning, tonight, things are going to look totally different. I know my son very well. If he could come back here and stand on this stage and talk to you today instead of me, he would tell you what an incredibly stupid thing he did and how he wished he could take it back. He would. He would tell you that you never want your parents' doorbell ringing at 2:30 in the morning. And he would really tell you that you never want to ask anybody you love to have to identify your body. But he's not here. So I speak for him, and I share our story to save lives. In that moment, his amygdala got hijacked. We're going to talk about how that happens in a minute with our big 3 emotions. So you saw all those emotions. We have lots of emotions. But what we know about our brains, our personality, we have 3 go-to emotions that we go to under stress. Okay? So we can go forward with that too. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about the prefrontal cortex, because what does it do? It does everything. It helps us in life. It is so important. And if you're 14 years old sitting in here, 13, 15, about that age, 13, 15, as long as you've been here on planet Earth, as long as you've been here, you have to live that amount again for your brain to be fully developed. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. But we can teach you things here today to keep you alive when your amygdala gets stuck in those big 3 emotions. We can teach you how to hold on to hope and hold on to life so you can be here tomorrow. So it's involved in so many things. It takes up over 10% of the volume of your brain. Okay, we can go forward too. We say it has executive function, which means it's the highest level functioning that your brain needs. So, I'm going to use a real world example for your age, okay? I was here last September. I got a phone call. Said, you might not want to come this week. It's been pretty rough at our school. There's a stupid TikTok campaign going on, telling everybody to rip things off the wall, and shove them down the toilet, and break everything in the bathroom. TikTok says to do it, so that's a good idea. That's an amygdala idea. That is somebody thinking out of the back of their brain that was developed when they were 6 years old. That's not a higher level thinking brain. So let me tell you, an adult would look at that TikTok campaign, somebody over the age of 27, and go, that's a dumb idea. If I rip that off the wall, I get kicked out of school. I get kicked off the football team or the band, or can't see my friends. A higher level reasoning thinks about, if I do this, then this, and this will happen. But you don't have that higher level reasoning yet. So we're trying to keep you safe. Okay, we're trying to keep you safe to make better choices, because your brain's gonna fool you. Now, I've got some tools I'm gonna give you today. Some tools and some gifts. Your brain's gonna fool you. So I'm gonna try to keep you alive and safe so you can have a future and a life. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one. Okay, so what does the prefrontal cortex have to do with our brain? Everything. Everything. This part of our brain controls everything at a higher level than the old amygdala does. The old amygdala. The amygdala is just that emotions and feelings. Yes, your feelings matter. I get this question. Well, don't my feelings matter? Your feelings do matter. Can I ask you something? Have you ever felt something really strongly, and then the next day you felt different? You didn't feel that way anymore? Or you changed how you felt? What if you took your life over that? You weren't here the next day for when your feelings change and that doesn't really bother you anymore. Things are different. You got to be careful not to act on your feelings. If we acted on every single thing we felt all the time, we'd be in trouble. That's why we need our brain. We need our brain to do the thinking. Okay? So, we know that we have 3 big emotions. Okay, this is where you start writing your paper. Who can tell me what those 3 big emotions are? Who can tell me one of them? And these are our go-to emotions when things happen in our lives that go wrong under stress. What do we go to under stress? Yes? Fear. You say fear? Okay, so, yep. Well, kind of. Anxiety. I'll look at that. Yes. Sadness. Sadness is one. Yes. Anger and kind of fear. Anxiety or worry. So it's anxiety, sadness, and anger. Okay, I sent this to all the classes, so you're the 4th class I talked to today. This is judgment-free safe zone. We're going to do some sharing in here. Nobody's going to judge anybody or look at anybody. We're going to get real, okay? We all know we have these emotions. We all know under stress, just our personalities go to an emotion, one or the other. How many of you, when you had a bad day at school, something goes wrong, the first thing you do is you just get mad about it, get angry? How many of you, anger is your go-to? Come on, let's be real. Let's be real. I've been pretty real up here, don't you think? Let's be real. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty. How many of you would say, when you're struggling and things go wrong in your life, you just like can't turn it off, keeps playing over and over, you're on a rewind and your brain keeps, you can't let it go, you just worry, anxiety, you just think about it over and over and over. How many of you, I'm a professional worrier. I can worry about worrying. Yep. And then how many of you, when something happens, you just kind of get sad about it, and you just get down and get sad, you know? Wow, thank you so much. And then one other thing we know, depending on the situation, the circumstance, sometimes we're kind of a blended smoothie of all 3, depending on what's going on. How many of you say, I might just be a blended smoothie of all 3 of those big 3 emotions, depending on the day, depending on how I'm feeling. Yeah? Okay. Those are not bad emotions. Those are not wrong emotions. Those are human emotions. They're human because we're human, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about stress for a moment here, okay? All right? I'm going to tell you a little story, and we're going to talk about the stress in our lives. So, there was a group of scientists out in Arizona. This is a true story. I have a lot of stories. I'm kind of a storyteller. There's a group of scientists out in Arizona, and they built this big biosphere, a biodome. Does anybody in here know what a biodome is or a biosphere? Has anybody ever seen one, like a picture of one? You ready? Yeah. What's it look like? Well, what it is, think of like a big snow globe without the snow. It's like a big dome that they build. And inside of it, they put everything that's in nature. Everything in nature. Okay? So trees, shrubs, birds, animals, anything that's nature. And they study it. They try to figure out, they watch it, watch how it grows, watch what's happening. They do research. So these scientists decided they were going to build this biodome out in Arizona, this huge biodome. First thing they noticed was the trees. The trees underneath this dome would grow up really tall and very fast. And then they'd fall over. They put some more trees in there. They grow up really fast. And then they fall over. Huh. What was missing? What was missing underneath that dome that we have in nature that they couldn't recreate inside the dome? Anybody know what was missing? Wind. Wind. Do you know that a tree cannot start to grow roots unless it has some wind? It has to have wind to grow roots. And it needs those roots because as it gets bigger, there'll be bigger winds and storms that will break it unless it has roots. So it needs a little bit of wind to get those roots going, but not too much wind until it can grow up strong and be able to handle bigger storms. And guess what? We are like the trees. We are like the trees. We need a little bit of stress in our lives. Not all stress is bad stress. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We need a little bit of stress. It gets us up in the morning for school, gets our clothes on, gets us dressed, gets us here on time, gets us to class, gets us to band practice or something we have to do. We need some level of stress. But what happens when the stress gets overwhelming and those big three emotions we just talked about get stuck? You do what my son did. That's why we have to learn how to regulate our emotions. We need to know how to manage them. Make sure we can cope when those tough times come, okay? So I'm going to ask you guys a question now. Once again, I want everybody to be honest here. We are not judging anybody. I've been really honest with you up here, and I just want you guys to share. If I'm going to ask your group, and I've done this in every class, what are some things that are stressing you out right now? What's your stressors? And it could be anything. It could be school, family, it could be anything at all, anything at all. What were some things you can just shout them out if you want? What are some things that are stressing you out right now? Sports? I hear that. I hear that from a lot. Okay, sports. After school activities? Okay? After school activities and sports. Who else has anything? What? Grades? Did you say grades? Yes. What did you say? Loud noises. Okay, loud noises. Grades. Jobs? Like after school, weekend jobs. Full-time jobs. Jobs. Sports. Okay, those are some good answers. So, we'd like to say that we could eliminate all stress, but we really can't. And we really don't want to eliminate all stress, but we want to learn how to cope with our stress and how to manage it in a better way so we don't wind up hurting ourselves, so we don't wind up turning to vaping, so we don't wind up turning to drugs and alcohol. So we have better ways to cope with our stress. So we're going to start talking about some things here in just a minute. Okay? And what we're going to start talking about are what I call your sources of strength. We all have them in our lives. You have some. You're going to find them in just a few minutes. Everybody has them. And they look different in everybody's life because we're all different. But what we know from studying these things is these things in a person's life, the more of them that they have, and the more of them that they can grow and build, which is really cool. If you don't have some, you can go get them. You can build out your wheel. I'll tell you how. I call them protective factors. You might hear people talk about risk factors with suicide. I'd rather talk about protective factors. I'd rather talk about factors that keep us alive, that give us hope. Okay? So, these protective factors are on this wheel. And we're going to go by them one by one by one. So this is what you're going to be using your paper. The first three, family support, positive friends, and mentors, are your people that you have in your life, okay, that show up. The next three, healthy activities, generosity, and spirituality, are what we do. The last two, physical health and mental health, are where we go, how we take care of ourselves, okay? We're going to run this wheel, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, okay? So, when I talk, and I'm going to have you write, on your paper you're going to write family support. Now, here's the deal. That looks different for everybody. I give this talk in many, many places. That looks different for everybody, okay? So here's what I want to say. When I say the word family support, some of you might immediately think of your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, okay? You say, yeah, they're supportive in my life. They're there for me. If that's you, write that down, okay? If that's you, write that down. Write down their names, write down who is that? Now I'm going to extend out a little bit. How many of you, when I say family support, you think my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, my grandma, my grandpa? Write that down, put that down, okay? Put that down, that's your support. Some of you might say, and I get this a lot, Leslie, my family's not really that supportive, actually, at all. But I got some people that show up in my life. I can, you know what? I can show up and I can sleep on their sofa. I can eat their food, I can raid their fridge. They got my back. I call that your chosen family. How many of you are chosen family? They're awesome. I love chosen family. Put your chosen family down there. Put their names. Who are they? Write that down. Because we're working this wheel, so I need you to make your list, because you're going to transfer it to your wheel. Okay? Some of you might say, I've got foster family, adopted family. Yeah, they can look different. So who is it in your life that shows up for you? Okay? That makes sense? The next thing I have on this wheel, and once again, family does not have to be related by blood at all. Okay? So, let's move to the yellow part. Let's see, that says positive friends. So we really want to talk about both parts of that. So many of us might have friends, maybe we've been a friend, which is not that particularly positive. We're actually more in the negative friend category. Okay? But today we don't want to focus on that. Today we want to talk about positivity. If you can think of, if you haven't been a positive friend, I'm going to tell you something. You can walk out those doors in less than an hour and flip that script and be a positive friend to somebody. But here's what you got to do. Tell me what you think. When you think about somebody, when I say the word positive friend, what makes someone a positive friend? What makes them positive? Who can tell me? One thing? Anything? Yes. They help you when you're down. Great, I like that. That's a good, positive thing. What else? You guys are all doing it right now. What else? Listening. Do you want a friend who will listen? Not judge, just listen. What else? What else makes a positive friend? If you see somebody that's positive, or you want to be a positive friend, or you need a positive friend, what are you looking for from that person? Yes? Supportive? Yeah, I think that's kind of shit. Supportive, yep. Good listener, but kind, compassionate, right? We can go out in that hall, I can find 25 negative friends for you in 30 seconds after class. But it's the positive ones we're looking for. So what I want you to do, if you have a positive friend, put it down on that paper, okay? And hopefully you do. If you don't, then we need you to look for some, okay? We're going to help you try to find some. We're going to be trying to find them by the things that you wrote that we're talking about that make them positive, okay? So put that down. Who are your positive friends? Or who, you know what? Maybe you just noticed somebody in school and you're like, they're always like so nice. I want to hang out with them, but I don't know how. Because I'm not really that nice, but I want to be their friend. Put them down. Make that a goal to make them your positive friend. I'm not going to encourage my friend to vandalize the bathroom or rip the toilet paper holder off. Anybody can do that. I'm going to encourage them to do something good. Now, the third category of this, the people in your life, are called mentors. Does anybody here know what a mentor is? Maybe you can have a mentor in your life. This is a super important one on the wheel. Here's why. Another word we use for mentors is trusted adults. Maybe you heard that expression. So the difference between being a mentor and a positive friend is that a mentor is usually a little bit ahead of us in life. They have gone through some of those storms and built some deep roots. So when we go through those storms, they're there for us. We can go to them. They've already gone through things. Okay? I'm 62 years old, and I have a mentor in my life. She's been in my life for 15 years. And I have 3 young women that I mentor in their lives. They call me when they're struggling. We talk, take them out to lunch, I listen to them, try to help them make good decisions. I'm their mentor, okay? Somebody you go to for guidance and help. So it's going to be an older person, somebody over 27 that has that fully developed prefrontal cortex. That's what I mean when we talk about a mentor. Now, if you don't have a mentor, I want you to write down on that piece of paper, who do you know in this school, or maybe in your family? It doesn't have to be in your family. A mentor many times is not your family. Who do you know that you would like to say, hey, I'm a freshman. You know, high school's hard and going through a lot. Would you just be my mentor? I can check in with you. I can text you. Maybe we could go out to eat once in a while and you come to my games or whatever. You just be in my life through high school. You want me to tell you the importance of having a mentor? Here is the deal. They did a big study a few years ago, and they looked at all these people that were at the top of their field. In every area, musicians, tattoo artists, hip-hop artists, doctors, everyone who was the top in their field. The one thing that connected all these people together, they had a mentor early in life. And they maintained that relationship with that person. They kept them in their life. Okay? The importance of having a mentor. If you have a mentor in your life, from your age on through high school, you are 80% less likely, 80% less likely to develop a drug or alcohol problem in life. Because guess what? Instead of coping with drugs or alcohol, you reach out for your mentor. They're there for you. Do you want me to tell you what percentage of suicide involves drugs and alcohol? Over 50%. Over 50%. So having a mentor and keeping a mentor is very protective. Very protective in your life. So I'm not saying you have one right now, but you can find one, and we can help you find one. In the school, a coach, a teacher, just say, hey, would you mind letting me check in with you once in a while and be my mentor? And make that person feel good to know that you want that. You want that relationship with them. So those are our people, okay? We just did on the wheel. Family support, positive friends, and mentors. The next 3 things are what we do, okay? The gray part of the wheel, generosity. Anybody know what generosity means? What's generosity mean? Yes. That's a great definition. Doing something nice for someone. Generosity doesn't have to be about buying somebody something. I mean, it can be. Generosity is really putting somebody else ahead of yourself. Thinking of somebody else before yourself. Because guess what we know from studying the brain up here? The growing brain that you guys have. Helping other people helps us feel better. Helps our brains feel better. When I'm having the worst possible day, everything's going wrong, I look for something I can do to give back. Because it really, really helps me. In the middle of COVID, when it was really bad and we couldn't go anywhere or do anything, we were all isolated, we have a place in our town in Goshen called The Window, and it's a food pantry, and my daughter and I just went to Walmart and we bought a bunch of food. We just took it over to The Window. And you know, it helped us to do something for somebody else during COVID because we felt we couldn't do anything to help anybody. But it helped our brains to know we could do something to help somebody. You don't have to buy things. You come in that school door in the morning, you see somebody in the hallway, you know, you can tell by that person's face, they're struggling. They're having a bad morning. How about you just go up and say, hey, you having a bad day? You having a bad morning? How's it going? I've been there. I've had bad mornings. Check on your friends. Make sure they're okay. That's generosity. Thinking about somebody else makes us feel better. Okay? Now, Oh, I skipped over healthy activities. I'm sorry, I skipped one. Okay, so I want you to write down on there something in your life on your paper, and we're writing all these because we're going to be filling out a wheel. A time when you did something nice for somebody for no reason, or a time when somebody did something nice for you and it surprised you. It made you feel good. Write that down under generosity. Okay, hopefully you have something you can think about. I'll go back to healthy activities. I'm sorry, I skipped that one. So healthy activities. What do we think about? When we say healthy activities, what do we think about? Mostly. What do we think? When I say healthy activities, what does everybody think about? Fitness, sports. Sports, I heard sports over here. Yep. And that's true. It's a healthy activity. Let me tell you what. What else is a healthy activity? Let me see. Got any gamers in here? Anybody like to game? Okay, guess what? Gaming is a healthy activity. It's a healthy activity. How about my artists? Are anybody like to draw, paint, artistic, healthy activity? Okay? I want you to make your list of what your healthy activities are on that piece of paper, okay? How about bakers? Are there any cooks or makers in here? Anybody like to bake, make food, cook? Nobody cooks in here? Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a healthy activity. So it can be exercise and sports, but it can be way more than that. Okay? So kind of think of it as things that connect you like to do with other people, your friends, okay? So, you got that? Put that down on your paper. What is your healthy activity? We talked a little bit, we just talked about generosity. What I want you to know, something that's really cool. You know what it means to be grateful, thankful? Okay? They've done some recent research in the past couple of years on gratitude in the brain. Do you know if you're thankful about something, someone, something that happened, and you're feeling grateful in that moment, you can't feel angry? Anger and gratitude can't live in the brain together. Did you know if you're feeling like, wow, that was so nice, they did that for me, or you're feeling like really grateful somebody did something? Did you know you can't be depressed? You can't be sad? Sadness, depression can't live in the brain with gratitude? Gratitude rewires the brain. It rewires the brain. So I want you to think about this. And I want you to write this down, and I'm going to have you put this on your phone, and keep it on your phone. I want you to write this sentence. My reasons for living are. My reasons for living are 3 things. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple. Just something today that happened. I'm going to tell you, I was trying to get all this stuff, and I brought a lot with me today. Got boxes over here. It was pouring rain when I was coming. Like my windshield, it was raining hard. And I knew I had the parkway out there. I was like, there's not going to be anybody around to help me get all my stuff in. And I thought, I don't want to be soaking wet by the time I get in the building. I'm a woman of faith. Kind of said a little prayer, Lord, please let this rain stop just for let me. And you know what? I pulled in that parking lot. The rain just died down. I was able to get all my stuff out, all my boxes, get in the building. I was grateful for that. I was thankful for that this morning, that I got to come in and I wasn't soaking wet. It can be something simple. It can be like your dog. It can be a brother. It can be, my reasons for living are so I can eat more tacos. I love tacos. It can be anything simple, guys, okay? So 3 of those, 3 reasons for living. You got that? Here's what I want you to do. I'm challenging you. I'm going to have your teacher check. Starting today or tomorrow, today would be a good day. Anybody tell me what's different about today? Today's a super unique day in history. We'll never live, any of us, ever this day again. Yes? What did you say? The date. Yeah, the date. What is the date? All twos. 2, 22, 22. We had a young lady in one of the classes, today's her birthday. So we tried to say happy birthday to her. We attempted. But today's her birthday, 2/22/22. So anyway, 21 days in a row. So 3 weeks, guys, you with me? 3 weeks? You're going to take my reasons for living are, you're going to say them out loud to yourself, to your brain, to your heart. My reasons for living are, you can do it in the morning when you brush your teeth. You can do it when you get into school and you're having a hard time and you come to school and you're just like, oh, I don't want to be here today. But my reasons for living are, say those 3 things out loud 21 days in a row. Can you do that? Then I want you to check with your teacher and see if you feel better, if your brain feels better. Saying it out loud changes your brain chemistry. Gratitude can't live in the brain with anger, anxiety, or sadness. It can't live in the brain with anger, anxiety, or sadness. Okay? All right. So everybody got that? Got your 3 reasons for living? All right, we talked about generosity, spirituality. Spirituality. Okay. Spirituality. When we think spirituality, what do we think? Can anybody tell me? Yes. What? Beliefs. I like that. That's nice. Beliefs. Yeah. It can be where we go worship on Sunday, or a church, or a mosque, or a synagogue. But spirituality is bigger than that. It's anything that lifts our spirits. So it has to lift our spirit. Have you guys ever been in a concert where everybody knew the words to the song and you were all singing it at the same time? How does that make you feel? Kind of cool? Kind of lifted your spirits? Or you ever walk out into the night, in the summer or the winter, you look up and you see like stars. It's a really clear night and you can see stars. That's spirituality. Realizing that, I'm part of something way bigger than me. It lifts your spirit. So I want you to write down on there, what is it that lifts your spirit? What's your spirituality? I had one young woman tell me it was meditation. A lot of people do that. What is it that makes you feel better, that lifts your spirit? Write that under spirituality. Okay? We get to the last 2. We're going to talk about physical health. Super important with you guys because of your age. So you probably know we're supposed to drink at least 8 cups of water a day. How many of you would say, I drink plenty of water every day? Great. How many of you would say, I could probably use a little more water? I could drink more water. Yep. Most of us could probably drink more water. Okay? How many of you would say that, another part of physical health is sleep? I can tell here, right now, there's a lot of people in here who need to be getting more sleep. Did you know that in your teen years you require more sleep than little children, or even adults? Because your brain's growing, remember? It's getting ready, it's building out that prefrontal cortex, so it needs a lot of sleep. And how many of you would say you definitely get enough sleep every night? You get enough sleep. How many of you would say, I could probably use a lot more sleep? How many of you say, I could probably turn off my phone and not worry about TikTok at midnight and get a lot more sleep? Yeah. So it's really important you guys have to get off those devices at night. They keep something stirring in your brain, a chemical that keeps you from falling asleep. You're actually supposed to turn off your device 2 hours before you go to sleep, to let your brain produce melatonin that helps you go to sleep. And when you're looking at that, the light from your phone keeps your brain from being able to release that hormone that helps you sleep. So turn off your phone. So you're not missing anything, guys. You are not missing anything. So we know that we need to get more sleep, drink more water, we need to exercise. Maybe when we eat out, say, maybe I'll have a salad once in a while, not just have the cheeseburger all the time, but just take care of our physical health, okay? So we know what that is. So write down a couple things that you could do differently. More sleep, more water. What could you do? A couple things in your physical health category to feel better. So I'm going to go to mental health. kind of the same side of a different coin. Our bodies are connected to our head. Our head is connected to our body. My son lifted weights and worked out in the gym at 4:30 the day he died. 6 hours later, he took his life. I picked up his towels that were still wet from that shower. He was physically fit from the neck down. He was mentally ill from the neck up. He needed help. But he wouldn't ask for it. He thought he was too big, he was too strong. He wasn't going to ask anybody. And he was hurting. There is no reason for that. No reason for that. We are all here for each other. Connection is protection. If you're feeling bad, tell somebody. Don't isolate. Don't go off by yourself. That's what we want to do in depression, but what we need to do is let somebody know. So, if you're walking home with your best friend, your friend might have tripped, their leg snapped, you can see the bone. What would you do? What would you do? Would you ask them to go to the doctor? You would obviously say, you need help. You're hurting. You hurt your leg. Let me get your help, man. Now I want you to imagine that same best friend. They've been sad and depressed for a while. They say, don't worry about me. I'll be okay. We're going to be a positive friend. Because we know they deserve to not stay sad and not stay in pain. You're not going to get better on your own. You might need to go to the doctor. You might need to talk to somebody. You might need to get a little medicine. So this is how this wheel works. And we're going to talk about some practical tools in just a minute. What we know is the more of these you have in your life, the more protected you are. We're going to pass them out. We're going to pass out the wheels. So I'm going to give you these wheels, and you can just pass them back. What I want you to do is take your list, and I want you to fill out that whole wheel. At the top of that wheel is going to be your big 3 emotion. So when I feel angry, when I feel sad, you're going to write that at the top of that paper, okay? Then you're going to take everything you put on your white sheet, and you're going to put it in the color on that wheel. You're going to put what your family support looks like. And you might not have everything, and that's okay. A lot of people don't. Here's the cool part. You can add stuff. You can go get positive friends. You can find a mentor. You can build out your wheel. But here's what we know for sure. The more of these that you have in your life, the less likely you'll ever be to take your life. The less likely you'll ever be to die by suicide. The less likely you'll ever be to get involved with drugs and alcohol. Because these are called protective factors. So let me tell you how this works. You have had a really, really bad day at school. Let's just say you broke up with a boyfriend or girlfriend. You are sad beyond sad. You're angry too. Back there in the back of your brain, that amygdala is working overtime. Those big 3 emotions got a hold of you. But you know you cannot stay stuck in them. Okay? So what are you going to do? You're going to text a positive friend. You with me? You're going to text a positive friend. You're going to say, hey, what are you doing after school? You're going to meet up with them for a healthy activity after school. Maybe gaming, okay? So you're going to text a positive friend. You're going to ask them if they want to do some video games with you after school, a healthy activity. And then they're going to say, hey, let's go get something to eat. I'll buy because I know you're really having a hard day. I'm going to buy you a cheeseburger. Generosity. Do you see how these overlap? One leads to the other, leads to the other. Now here's why it's important to have more than one of these in your life. Say that you're a really strong basketball player here. That's your thing. That's your healthy activity. That's all you do. And that keeps you okay. You're okay because you got your sport. What happens if you break your ankle and you can't play basketball anymore? And you don't have any more of these protective factors on your wheel. So you got to work your wheel. You got to work it in your life. I'm going to want you guys to look for a mentor. I want you to ask somebody in the school, somebody in your family that's older, okay? But here's the deal. I speak on suicide prevention, and I hear about suicides every single week. Every week. I get a phone call or a text of a young person that took their life because they got stuck in that emotion. They let that emotion think for them. That this is the worst thing that's ever happened. That I'll never get past this. Their emotions were lying to them. And they reacted. To stop that pain, they took their life. I don't want you to take your life. I want you to turn to your wheel. What can I do to get unstuck when I'm stuck in this emotion? But I know there's going to be times. So you guys have been really good about being honest. I want to ask you another question. This is a hard one, but I think I've been really raw and honest with you up here. I'd ask the same of you guys. How many of you in the last month have had a pretty hard day when you think, I don't know if I can hang on that long. This is just so hard. I'm not sure I can be here tomorrow. I really appreciate your honesty. How many of you in that moment you think, nobody gets me, nobody understands, there's nobody to talk to, but if I just had somebody I could reach out to that wouldn't judge me, that would just listen, would you use that tool if it was free 24/7? Would you use that tool? Small, medium, large. The name of my organization is leslieshope.org. You can look up my website, LESLIESHOPE, one word, .org. This is the text crisis hotline wristband. You text the word HOME, HOME, to 741-741, free of charge, anytime, day or night. You're alone in the middle of the night, you feel like you just need to reach out. Someone will text you back in under 5 minutes, a trained counselor. They're going to make sure you're safe and you're okay. It's the first thing they're going to make sure. They're not going to judge you. And then you get to tell them what you want to tell them, as much or as little, okay? But you have a connection. We say connection is protection. Don't isolate, okay? Look what happened during COVID when we all had to isolate. It wasn't good for our brains, right? It wasn't good for us. Don't isolate. Reach out, connect. Small, medium, large, okay? Your teachers have them. One more thing, I know you all have phones. You all have phones. So there is an app. It's called the Not Okay app. NOT-OK-APP. NotOKApp.com. I want you to download this. I have it on my phone. I can show you, my phone's over there. The Not Okay app is free. Has a GPS locator. You can put up to 5 trusted contacts in there. Up to 5. I say put at least 2, and I'll explain why. Now, these people have to accept. When you put them in your app, it goes out and says, will you be in my trusted circle? Remember, we want them to be over the age of 27, so they got some deep roots that can help you through the storms you're going to go through, right? We need them to be adults, trusted adults. It can be in your family, it can be a teacher even, it can be anybody, okay? They accept they're in your app. You're at a party. Something went down, it's not good. You're in trouble. You're like, oh man, I'm going to get kicked out of school. This is really bad. You don't harm yourself. You don't hurt yourself. You click not okay. Your trusted circle goes out, okay? So I say put more than 2 in case one's not available. You can put up to 5. They say, I got Josh, I'm on my way. I'm sitting with him now. He's okay. So you don't harm yourself. You don't hurt yourself. You wait till they get to you. You have a covenant agreement with them when they accept to be in your trusted circle that you will not harm yourself. Till they get to you and can sit with you, listen to you, take you out and buy a burger, whatever the case may be, you stay safe. So when your amygdala gets overwhelmed with anger, anxiety, sadness, you get stuck in that, you think I can't get through this. You click not okay. You text home to 741-741. Can I get some nods here? We got it? We're going to stay safe. We're going to keep each other safe. And a lot of people ask if they can take extra for friends, brothers, and sisters. Absolutely. Just pass my website on there, leslieshope.org, and then text the word home to 741-741.